Great. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I'm Jen from Girls Soccer Network. Welcome to our very special Zoom event with Erica Suter, strength and speed coach, who really has devoted her career to educating girls and young women, which is obviously something that's so special and aligns her so perfectly with Girls Soccer Network. Erica has been blogging for us for over a year as well. She's done some great articles for us, and we're really excited to kick up off our Zoom series with this particular, topic, which is, as Erica said, super important. We want to keep everyone on the field as long as possible, as long as they're loving the game, keeping their bodies healthy, is super important. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Erica Suter Mulholland. She just got married. So there you go.
Yes. Well, thank you, Jen. I am so excited to present on this topic. I've been trying to educate more on it to soccer parents as well as the soccer coaches themselves because there's a time in a girl's life where she is going through some changes and it can impact performance or it can impact injury risk, and not enough people know about this and how to navigate this time, and it can be such a hard time. I think a lot of people chalk up the growth spurt to, oh, it's just growing pains, she'll get through it. But I really think we can turn that kind of victim mindset into something that's more empowering, and I like to call this time growing gains. And we really need to focus on empowering our girls during their growth spurt and then during the rest of their teenage years, because it can be a tough time to navigate. And this is why this presentation is so key, because I want to give the exact tools that girls can equip themselves with to feel strong and healthy and just feel like they're becoming the best athletes they can be. So we'll get into it. Just a quick background on me. Jen already mentioned that I am a speed, strength, and conditioning coach. I've been doing it for over 12 years now. I mainly work in person with soccer girls in Tampa, Florida, and mainly with that middle school, high school girl in the middle of her growth spurt. So I've really developed a passion for helping girls through this time. And I love learning about child development and growth and maturation. And I think it's just such an amazing time to really impact our girls because they are so malleable and adaptable during this time. So I'm very grateful to do what I do and just impact soccer girls and just show them the power of strength training and good nutrition. I did play college soccer myself. I played at Johns Hopkins University, and strength training and good nutrition were some things that really helped me reach my peak, not only as an athlete, but just also as a human being. Like, this stuff is very important for life after soccer because soccer does end one day. So, definitely important for both performance and overall health. The agenda today will be three main things. First, I'll start with defining terms. So, what are some things we need to know about the growth spurt? The second part of the agenda is talking about those growing pains. So, getting the bad stuff out of the way, some of those icky changes that might be happening during the growth spurt that really disorients a girl. But number three, I'll finish with some action. So, how can we turn these pains that are going on into gains so it doesn't feel as bad or as awkward during the growth spurt? We'll start with defining terms. So, when I'm talking about growth in a young soccer girl, that means the increase in the size of the body and its parts. So, we're talking things like height and limb length, longer legs, longer torso, longer arms as she's starting to grow and get older. Maybe her heart size is getting bigger, or her muscles or her weight's going up. So, that's what I mean when I talk about growth. On the other hand, there is what's called maturation. So, this is when a girl progresses toward a mature adult state and how she becomes a woman. So, maturation is going to be more of those things like getting the menstrual cycle for the first time, or maybe maturing earlier than her peers, like putting on muscle mass faster than other girls or getting taller faster than other girls. So, that's more of what maturation is in this sense. There's 2 types of ages when we're talking about growth and maturation. The first one is chronological age. So that is how old a girl is from when she was born. So if a girl is 13 years old today, she is 13 years old chronologically. Biologically, however, she might not be 13, because if she is maybe a late mature and, for example, she's not as tall as her other teammates, she might be maybe 11 and a half or 12 biologically. So we have to really keep in mind that maturation status of our girls as well. And this picture is a really good example of what I mean by biological age. So this is a U13 girls soccer team. So they are all 12 years old, but do all of them look 12 years old? You might see some girls in this picture that could pass as high schoolers. So, again, that is what I mean by maturity and that biological age. Some of these girls look like they might be 14, maybe a little bit older. So, I don't want the late matures to get discouraged, because you can't compare yourself to others and where they're at in their journey. You really want to focus on your own strengths. And some of our late matures, our shorter girls, are more agile. Some of our shorter girls are very technical and skilled, or they're fighters, and they have to really be aggressive. And that is a beautiful thing. If you're an early mature and you're one of those taller girls, maybe you are faster because you have longer legs, you have a longer stride length, and maybe you're leaning into that and getting away with all that and maybe not focusing on your technical skills as much. So everyone has their strength, and I don't want people to think that if you're a late mature, you're behind. You just really need to keep your eyes on your own paper, keep your eyes on your own journey, and I'll talk more about that at the end. But it's really key to just focus on you and your own journey in growth and maturation. Okay, we'll get the pains out of the way. So, what are some changes that happen during the growth spurt? So, the growth spurt is also the fancier term for this is called peak height velocity. So, this is usually happening ages 11 to 13 in girls, sometimes 10 to 14. It can be a little bit wider, but this is just on average when the growth spurt can occur. And the growth spurt is basically the maximum rate of growth in height. So, this is when maybe a girl's parents might be like, wow, she shot up like a weed in the past year. Well, that's her growth spurt. So, she just got super tall really fast. That's basically what it is. Also, during this time, the bones are growing faster than the tendons. So that can cause some things like some knee pain. So the femur, the bone on the thigh is growing faster than the kneecap, the patella tendon, which can cause that kneecap tendon to be a little tight. So if you've heard of girls say, "Oh, well, I'm having growing pains in the knee," or "I'm having Osgood-Schlatter," that could be the reason, because she's just growing so rapidly with those bones. There's also things like Seaver's disease, where the growth plates are open at the heel. So that can cause a little bit of pain, and it is very common during this time. And a lot of girls do get it, but not a lot of people are giving them solutions. And sometimes it happens, and it's too late. So that's why we'll talk about those gains and those solutions at the end for some of these growing pain injuries that are common. After the growth spurt is something called peak weight velocity that happens, and this usually occurs 6 months after the peak height velocity. So after she shoots up, gets really tall, gets really long limbs, then she starts to grow in weight. So she might put on more fat mass. Muscle mass tends to come later for girls, and it just is what it is. Boys tend to put on muscle mass sooner than girls, but girls actually have that increased fat mass, which can sometimes maybe make them feel more awkward in their body. They're putting on fat mass because they are girls and they're developing their chest, so breast development, also their hips are putting a little bit extra fat to maybe prepare for pregnancy when they're older one day. So there's reasons why this happens. Also, hormones are coming into play. And I just want to normalize this process that this is just what happens. But there are ways to empower girls, like I said. So the increase in fat mass, it doesn't need to hinder her performance. There are definitely some things we can do to help her feel strong. Okay, some hormonal changes that are going on. Now, this just adds a whole other storm of everything else going on physically. So, if you can imagine these girls, 11 to 13, 14 years old, they're going through a lot physically. And now here we are. You guys are getting your periods, usually happening around age 12 and a half, although some girls are starting to get them sooner than that, some a little bit later at age 14. So, this is just an average. And when this happens is there can be an increase in some negative symptoms, especially during that week before they get their period. There could be some fatigue, maybe some cramping, some digestive upset, maybe some sleep disruptions as well. And because of these negative symptoms, yeah, there might be a decrease in sport performance as she navigates this new hormonal change in her life. Again, ways to solve this and make those symptoms better. So we will get there. I'm trying to get through the pains pretty quickly. Okay, the last change is the mental changes. So there can be feelings of discouragement. So, on top of all the body changes, all the hormonal changes, her performance could not be as good as it once was pre growth spurt. As she grows into her body and figures out all this awkwardness and needs to regain some coordination back, it can be very discouraging. There's also increased stress and pressure in life. So when girls are in middle school, academic stress is picking up. There's also different like friend groups and drama happening. Trust me, I work with a lot of middle school girls. I hear it all. So there can be just a lot of extra academic and social stress and all these other things going on beyond just the field. And then the last mental change is girls this age can't help but compare to others. And I know it's really hard when some girls see things happening to their body during this time or to their hormones or their mental state. And they're just like, oh, I feel off. I don't feel, as good as my other friends are feeling. Or why is this happening to me so soon? Or why am I a late mature? So they're just constantly comparing to others during this time because so much chaos is going on. Okay, we got them all out of the way, got all the pains out of the way. Now, how are we going to turn these pains into gains? Here is the magical gains recipe that I have come up with over the years after working with girls during their growth spurt. The first one, and I want you to write this down, is proper training based on their age and their maturation status. So things like strength training, stability training, coordination, speed training. The second part of the recipe is proper nourishment and nutrition. The third ingredient is recovery. I'm a huge fan of recovery. And then the last ingredient to the gains is patience, patience and care. Okay. So let's go through all these in detail. So, the training piece. So, if a girl is losing control of her body because she is growing in height super fast or she's having body composition changes like an increase in fat mass, we want to give her proper strength training. Now, this doesn't mean at this age, 11, 13, we load with heavy weights right away. We don't want to do that. We always want to start, just like in this picture, with the body weight movements first. So, learning how to control a lunge, learning how to be stable, learning how to squat, maybe do a perfect push up. learning how to do an assisted pull up and really empowering with upper body strength as well. Because, yes, upper body strength is important for soccer. So, we want to make sure we're doing very gradual resistance training so she can gain some strength, balance, coordination, and stability in her body during this time. Strength training also improves speed and change of direction. So, if we're starting to expose her muscles like the hamstrings and glutes to this type of training, it's going to help with her speed. So, the hamstrings are the conductors of the lower body and they are the speed muscle. So, we improve speed through things like bridges, deadlifts, and various hamstring curls. And performance training during this time also reduces injury risk. So, if she has stability, if she has strength in her muscles that safeguards all of her joints, like the knee and the ankle, tend to be very precarious injuries in soccer. So, we really want to strengthen those muscles surrounding those joints that get injured most. Soccer is a very demanding sport, and she needs to be resilient to those demands. Also, with bone health, the bones during this age, they're still filling in bone mineral density, which is why risk for stress fractures is very high during the growth spurt. But if there is gradual strength training and gradual loading, those bones become strong over time and they build that bone mineral density. So, very critical to start getting in the gym, especially with a performance coach who understands how to progress this age group safely. Okay, one of my favorite quotes about strength training and its impact on body composition is from strength coach Mike Boyle. And he said that more mass without strength is terrible. So when a girl is putting on more fat mass, we have to balance that out with starting to increase muscle mass through strength training so she can control her momentum on the field. We want to make sure that she is becoming strong as well. Obviously, there is a healthy percentage of fat mass for each girl, depending on height, weight, and genetics, but simultaneously, we need to add strength to that too. We need to add the muscle mass so that she stays healthy. Okay, proper nutrition. This is definitely a fan favorite. I get asked about nutrition all the time. And the first one is we want to build strong muscles. So, all of that performance training we're doing, it does matter, but it only becomes extremely beneficial when we are filling our muscles with the proper nutrients post workout. So, mainly your proteins and your carbohydrates. Okay, so you want to make those training sessions very useful. You want to begin that recovery process right after. I have a nutrition guide I will send at the end of this presentation if anyone is interested in more specifics. Nutrition also helps with building the bones. So, again, that bone mineral density that's still filling in, we want to make sure girls are getting foods rich in vitamin D, calcium, vitamin K. Protein also builds the bones as well. So, that is going to help with that bone density a ton. Proper nutrition also increases performance. So, do girls want to have energy to perform? Do they want to be focused and sharp and creative? Well, nutrition impacts your brain. So, you got to make sure that you're feeding your brain proteins, carbs, and also those healthy fats, which really make up your brain neurotransmitters and build those. Good nutrition also supports hormones and mitigates those negative menstrual cycle symptoms. For the longest time, when I was a young soccer player, I thought that I had to deal with negative menstrual cycle symptoms my whole life. I thought it was just part of being a female and I just had to suck it up. Well, it turns out that nutrition can actually mitigate those symptoms, if not get rid of them altogether. And I can proudly say I'm in my 30s now and I have no symptoms during my cycle. Um, Cramps gone, fatigue gone, irritability gone, no more mood swings, and it's all because of proper nutrition. And the main thing that I really changed was making sure I'm getting healthy fats because healthy fats make up the female hormones. So things like eggs, salmon, your nuts, your nut butters, any cut of meat that has some healthy fats in it, some omega-3 fatty acids, that is going to really help with those symptoms so girls aren't feeling as bad during a certain week in the month. And proper nutrition can also improve mental health and confidence. If a girl is nourishing herself and hydrating herself the best she can't help but feel mentally confident and well and energized and motivated for the day, motivated for practice. So I really think that the nutrition, it just has so many benefits for so many things that are going on during this time. So it's really important that girls are eating the best they can to support health first and then performance follows. One of my favorites from Hippocrates is let food be thy medicine. Of course, no one's perfect with their food, but I always tell my girls you want to nourish your body as consistently as you can and really pay attention to how you feel and how you're performing. Pay attention to any symptoms that are coming up. Is this food serving you or is it deterring you? So, really let that food be your medicine. It is your internal equipment. We bring shin guards, we bring cleats, we bring soccer balls. That's our outside equipment, but our nutrition is the internal equipment. So, really important. Okay, recovery. So, this is where the biggest gains happen. So maybe you're someone who is a 7 day a week, let's grind, no days off. And it might work for some time, but eventually there's a point of diminishing returns and the muscles just keep getting torn and they don't have time to repair. So after a training session or after a game, a soccer girl's muscles are broken down and they're torn. So the only way to repair them is good nutrition and then making sure we have a day off that is very low to non-impact that doesn't strain those muscles more. I always recommend girls take at least 1 to 2 full days off a week where they have no training obligations. They're not seeing an extra skills trainer. They have to fit at least 1 to 2 full days off in the schedule. They can go swimming on that day. That's very low impact. It's really not going to wear and tear the muscles. But I wouldn't recommend going for a 5 mile cool down jog on a recovery day. That is actually very taxing on the muscles, and that is not an active recovery day. So the biggest gains where the muscles repair and then rebuild and get ready for the next training session happens during recovery. We also avoid overuse injuries. I have worked with so many girls during the growth spurt, and some take my advice, some parents don't, but the ones that don't, they have dealt with overuse injuries for a year chronically, and it shouldn't be happening. If a girl has Osgood-Schlatter or knee pain for a year, even 3 plus months, that is a red flag that what you're doing is not working. She should never be pushing through pain because what usually happens is a lot of these overuse injuries can turn into something more catastrophic down the line, like an ankle sprain or an ACL tear. So you want to take these pains seriously and either recover more, maybe have an off season, do a little bit of strength training to safeguard that knee. You really want to take these overuse injuries seriously. Also, avoiding mental burnout. We want to make sure our girls have a time to miss soccer. And I know a lot of girls love to play soccer, but mental burnout is very real. And it is very common to burn out from something you love. Trust me, I'm a coach. I love working with athletes. I love strength and conditioning, but I also need to periodize my life and have my off days. So it's really, really critical that girls take that recovery time, have a chance to miss soccer, and then that's when they come back with that passion and fire. And in the long run, it helps them so much more. Okay. This is one of my favorite quotes from Dave Gleason. He's a good friend of mine and a youth performance specialist and also speed coach. And he says, You can't be on your grind if you're not recovered. I think we need to redefine what the true grind is and what hard work really is. And it's hard to prep your meals and eat well. It's hard to take 1 to 2 days off when you have FOMO and you feel everyone else is doing more than you. It's hard to do that. And I think that's the true grind, is taking these things seriously, your training, your nutrition, and your recovery. That's the true grind. When you think you're grinding by going hard, going 7 days a week and not taking any recovery, it will come around in the end and it will be diminishing returns. So, really rethink what the grind means to you. And you have to remember that during the growth spurt time, it is very precarious. There are so many changes going on, and we can't be grinding year round when the bones are still filling in, when the bones are growing faster than the tendons, and we don't want the tendons to be more stressed. We have to be very meticulous with this age group. It's always crazy because even professional athletes, even women soccer players, they take a full off season, but they're fully matured in their bodies. And I think it's crazy that young girls that aren't fully matured are training more and playing more games and having less of an off season than fully matured women. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, the last ingredient to the gains recipe is patience. I know as parents, it's really hard to see your daughter going through all these changes and maybe her performance is not as good as it once was, but this is a lot for her to deal with. And we just have to be patient. We have to be supportive. And we also have to let the clock do its job. I think if we try to force things during this time, it backfires and we can't ever go against nature. So we really want to meet girls where they are in their journey. If you have a girl who's maybe a late mature and she might be slower than other girls on her team, then that's just where she is in her journey. You can't really force a girl who's shorter to have a longer stride length. She's just not tall as someone else on the team. But what you can do is meet her where she is and lean into her strengths. Is she technically good? Is she good at 1v1s? Does she have a great shot? Is she agile? A lot of late developers are very agile. And a lot of late developers actually, there's a lot of research saying they have really great long term success. So it really comes down to that patience, letting the clock do its job. Focus on the gains we can control too. So focus on controlling good training, good performance training, proper nutrition, making sure that she's getting all the nutrients she needs to support her muscle growth and her bones during this time, and also her mental health. And then just making sure we all continue to educate. I'm trying my best to educate parents and coaches because not a lot of coaches, especially, learn about child development in the coaching licenses. I've gone up to my C license and we only learned about just soccer and periodization and planning practice and formations. And there's not much on growth and maturation. And it's really crazy because we are all coaching kids. So we should understand what's going on physically, mentally, and emotionally. So if you took notes during this, or if you are really taking a lot of this to heart, feel free to educate others who weren't on the call. We're just trying to get the word out here to help these girls during such a crazy time. Another quote I love, I'm such a quote person. Just keep this in mind during the growth spurt. Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. And this kind of propelled me to write this quote in my female athlete high performance book. I have a whole chapter on the growth spurt. That's probably the longest chapter in the book. I'm just so passionate about it. But I wrote this quote. It says, "A female athlete's career should be like the blooming of a flower, never rushed, only nurtured and watered with patience so she can blossom beautifully in the end." So if you think about it, when a flower is growing, we don't force it to grow. We don't yell at it, "Hey, you gotta grow faster, you need to get taller." No, we water it, we give it the tools it needs, and we just let nature do its job. So thank you for listening. I hope you all got a lot of value from this. If you want to stay in touch or have any questions or want me to elaborate more on nutrition, feel free to reach out. I'm very responsive through my email, fitsoccerqueen@gmail.com. And then I'm also hanging out a lot on Instagram at fitsoccerqueen. And then the female athlete books I have out, the first one is The Strong Female Athlete. It's more research studies behind female athlete training, performance, nutrition, recovery. So it's more of a scientific book. And then the second book, Female Athlete High Performance, is more practical. So there's workout programs in there, sample grocery lists, nutrition plans. There's also a whole mental portion of the book on how to build confidence and empower. So hopefully you guys can check those out. And then I usually start off with a what did you learn before a Q&A. So I'm very curious what everyone on here learned, or if something you just didn't know before about the female athlete growth spurt. Anyone want to get on the mic? Don't be shy.
Or if you came late and you have a question.
I actually have a question. I came on late. I'm Sheriff from Austin, Texas. I have a question. My daughter, I don't know if you're familiar with osteochondritis dissecans, but unfortunately, she had this terrible diagnosis, and I do believe it in part was due to her overtraining, but we are on the other side of that. But my question to you is talking about the 1 to 2 rest recovery days. If they are playing in a league where they have a Saturday, Sunday game, would you recommend that Monday being the recovery? If they're only going to do one, probably so. And then I'm assuming, and then my follow on question is if you're doing a second one, would it be best to do it on that Friday?
Yes, you definitely nailed it. And usually, with the girls I work with, the Monday and Friday are the perfect days. Obviously, most coaches don't hold practice on Fridays, so that's usually the one rest day girls are able to make time for. And then when there is that 2 game weekend, which is very common now, and I kind of do understand it with some of the leagues and the travel, usually that Monday is the perfect day to take off. I I think skills training is great, but I think there's times where you should go hard in it and times you shouldn't. And I don't think a rigorous season is the time to add extra skills training with the trainer, at least not on a weekly basis. That recovery is so much more important. So I definitely encourage a Monday, Friday. Some girls do a Friday, Sunday if it's like a 1 game weekend. So yeah, that's what I would recommend.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
I have one more. I'm so sorry.
Okay,
I'm full of
that's
questions.
okay. No, that's
Oh, that's
great.
okay.
Just because of my daughter's journey, I might have missed this and you might have covered it. I came on late and I apologize. Did you speak on supplements at all?
No, I did not. But if you want to write your email in the chat, or anyone who wants this, I can send my general nutrition guide for female athletes, and it kind of has a blurb on there and supplements.
Okay, thank
But
you.
yeah, usually I recommend girls get their vitamin D, calcium. Usually iron is something they're also deficient in, protein as well, magnesium. I recommend they get it through food, and I have a grocery list of foods that are rich in those. So I'll email that to you. Just
Great.
take a screenshot.
Lisa Giannopoulos has a
Yes,
yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
sorry, I came on late, so I apologize as well. I had a question on your take with like recovery days with kids that do multiple sports at the same time. For example, like I have a young daughter who's 10 and she plays travel in premier soccer, and now she's heading into basketball season. So basketball will be hosting practices as well as for Premier. So just kind of gauging on what's too much. They do, train a little bit differently, but I just don't know I don't want her to have an overuse injury.
Yeah, usually just to keep that overuse injury risk low, at least getting 1 to 2 full days fully off from going to sports practices or any extra trainings. And there's a lot of research that says if kids are doing more hours than their age in their sport, then that's going to increase the injury risk. So if she's 10 and doing 12 hours a week of sports and serious trainings, then that can really increase the risk of overuse.
Right.
Okay, thank you
Rebecca,
so much.
thank you. Thank you for asking. Rebecca Holder Ott has a question. How much volume in strength training should we be adding? Duration, number of days a week?
Yeah, it's really going to depend on the athlete. So, what season they're in, how old. So, Rebecca, how old? I don't know.
Rebecca has to unmute.
Yeah. Well, I would say if it's during the season, most girls can do 1 to 2 times a week, but if it's in the off season, at minimum twice a week, just to get a good adaptation and make progress fairly fast. But yeah, usually it just depends on the practice schedule. So if I have a girl who gosh, some of my girls practice 3 or 4 days a week with their team. I tell them, "Hey, you can only see me once a week for strength training. You're not gonna be a twice a week person." I always want to look at their practice schedule and then work backwards. Okay, can they still have their 1 to 2 days off? And then they'll pencil in working with me. One thing I do recommend a lot of girls do is they do strength training before their practice. But this is when you have to work with someone who understands proper volume. When they do a strength session with me before practice on the same day as practice, it should never make them sore. We're not doing enough sets and reps to cause muscle soreness. We're only doing a minimum effective dose to gain strength, but making sure they're going into practice feeling good. I like combining strength on the same day as practice because when they have that next day off, it's fully off. I don't want them coming to me. I want work days to be work days and then off days to be off days. So that's what I'm recommending a lot of my girls do.
Just to follow up, can you assess if they are in a growth spurt slump or they've hit their ceiling?
Usually it's the growth spurt slump, and it's something that just needs to be weathered. And just have to equip them with good training, nutrition, recovery during that time. It's very hard to tell during ages 11 to 13 if they've hit their ceiling. Like, we have no clue what's going to happen when they fully mature. And maybe when they're 16 years old, they're the best on the team, they're the fastest on their team, they're the strongest. We just don't know. I mean, the cards could play out any which way. So that's why I always tell people just meet your girl where she is and nurture her the best you can with these proper tools.
Question from Yuki. What is your opinion on sports drinks for young girls?
I think they're great on the go. I mean, if you are at a tournament for the weekend and it's really hot and there's a lot more sweating than usual, then yeah, they definitely need to get those electrolytes in. But there's also other ways to get electrolytes. So if your girl really likes watermelon or banana or blueberries or even pretzels with salt, that has sodium. So there's ways to get your electrolytes through food too. So it really depends. If your girl likes sports drinks, then go for it. And if it's quick and convenient, go for it. But if you like getting it through food, you can do that too. But electrolytes are super important for having energy and focus to play and avoiding muscle cramps. So I'm glad you asked that.
Hey, anybody else?
Those were good questions.
Great questions. We are
Yeah.
going to put this recording up on our YouTube channel, as is Erica. But
Someone put their email in. But if you guys want me to send the nutrition guide, if you want to drop your email in the chat, I can send that over to you. It's a lot more detailed on grocery lists and supplements if needed, recommendations for dietitians if you need plans. So, yeah, I'll just get these if you guys just want to drop those in. I think it can be a lot, just seeing your daughter go through a lot of changes, and it's really sad that there isn't a lot of education and not a lot of coaches are learning it in the licenses, and it's really unfortunate. But I'm trying to change that so they can talk to girls differently or provide suggestions and tweak how practice is. So yeah, I'm glad we got to do this. I love talking about growth spurts.
Great. And we're going to be doing more of these, everyone, these free events, which we're excited about. We actually have a new, something new that we're going to try next month. It's kind of a community building event. We're doing a Friendsgiving, where Erica will come and share some more about strength and conditioning. And then we have Amanda Ferranti, who's a amazing youth psychologist for girls. And myself and Sam Carey, who does our Big Life podcast, and then we're gonna do an Erica focused event in January, at the end of January or early February. We don't have a date on menstruation, right? I believe that second one is. So please keep, we'd love to, have you guys back, and really happy, to be doing this. And thank you for being a part of Girls Soccer Network. And
Yeah. I think, Jen, what was the next one we're doing on? Is it menstrual cycle?
yes, it's menstrual
Yeah.
cycle. Yeah.
Yep. And if you guys, if your girl's not experiencing it yet, I still highly recommend coming to that one just to learn and be ready, because there is a lot of misinformation on the menstrual cycle, and there's a lot of fear mongering around it that it increases injury. I have a lot to say about that one, but I like to give our girls empowerment and actionable solutions to not get injured during times in their cycle. So definitely come to that, because it's a very different perspective that's not as like defeating.
Well, thank you guys. We'll see you at the next one, I hope, and at our special Friendsgiving, we hope, where
Yes.
the community will gather.
Yep. And I'll email everyone the guide tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. And thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Bye.